It's currently August 23rd, 2020, and the Alpha Combat Arena is set to release by November of this year. If there's anything that can help with the waiting process, it's good old-fashioned speculation. So that's what we're going to do. I thought it would be fun to make a pre-alpha speculation tier list. This list was created using existing video footage and making predictions based on kinfolk types, among other things. With that said, let's dive in. K-Knight. The kinfolk used most in promotional footage, so naturally we know a lot about him. We know he's a fire type. Fire types excel at taking control of the battlefield with a hit and run based playstyle. We also know he's very fast, the fastest we've seen at the moment. But not only does he have speed, he can also deal strong projectile attacks without stopping. Being able to deal damage while simultaneously evading your opponent's moves has great impact on a kinfolk's viability, in my opinion. With all that said, I'll kick things off with placing K-Knight in the S tier. I think he'll be one of the most popular and strongest kinfolk in the alpha. Ember. Another evolution in the Auburn line. From what we've seen, Ember has a similar moveset to K-Knight. The difference here is Ember is a lot slower. It'll probably make up for that with higher health or defense, but he'll be an easier target for attacks. As much as it pains me, I'll have to put Ember in the C tier. I hope I'm wrong. Auburn. Auburn is tricky, because generally in monster taming games, a monster is not as powerful as its evolutions. But the developers have said the tentative plan is to make all kinfolk as balanced as possible. I think that'll be difficult to pull off, but if that's their current mindset, then I think Auburn will start off in the mid-tier range. He seems to be faster than Ember, but slower than K-Knight. And again, a similar moveset. With decent speed and a small hitbox, I'll place Auburn in the B tier. Slifer. Confirmed as a null type, Slifer will be a very well-rounded kinfolk. It won't excel in anything in particular, but it'll have good all-around stats. Based on the art we've seen, Slifer seems to be quite nimble, always moving. Taking into account its interest in treasure, and its face mask, Slifer seems to fit into the thief/rogue archetype. Which in gaming generally means they have access to a strong movement and utility skill set. Slifer's going into the A tier. Shovelbutt. Earth-type kinfolk, with its playstyle being stall and crowd control based. With its large health pool, its goal is to slowly outlast its opponent. With high-pressure kinfolk like K-Knight, and most likely Slifer, I don't think this playstyle will be strong initially. There's a lot of guesswork here, but I'm going to put Shovelbutt in the C tier. Sorry, Priest. Mekkid. Confirmed as a mecha type, it'll have high defense at the cost of speed. It's taking on the role of the tank archetype. Mekkid is interesting because we've seen a gif of it running and it doesn't look too slow, perhaps a bit slower than Auburn. There's also official artwork of it heading into combat while airborne. It's hard to say if the artist took some liberties here or if it's based on the moveset. I'll choose to believe it's based on the move and say that Mekkid is a tad more agile than the mecha archetype norm. I almost wanted to place Mekkid in C tier, but I think its tiny hitbox will be really effective, so Mekkid goes in B tier. Light Stag. Being a light type, it'll be able to buff and heal itself. We've seen footage of Light Stag running, and it seems to run at a similar pace to K-Knight. So if you mix that kind of speed with self-sustaining moves, you have a recipe for success. When it gets heavily damaged, it'll be able to swerve left and right while using terrain for cover. This allows it to get its health back and re-engage on its own terms. I believe Light Stag will be one of the stronger kinfolk in the arena. I wanted to put it in the S tier, but there's a gif of it releasing one of its ranged attacks. The animation has it standing still for 2 seconds before attacking, so I'm a little hesitant, but for now, I'm putting Light Stag in the A tier. Skulkin. Confirmed as a dark type, Skulkin will rely on debuff and trickery gameplay. Having access to slows and teleports, it's hard to say how effective it'll be. Similar to light types, I do think dark types will be fairly powerful, especially if they get moves that take away health from the opponent and give it to the user. Skulkin is pretty slow, but we do see it use a quick dodge in the trailer. all kinfolk likely have access to a dodge like this, but it'll only help so much as it'll likely have a cooldown. Overall, I think Skulkin will be pretty solid, so it's going in the B tier. Salamander will likely be either a dark or a water type. I'm pretty convinced it'll be a dark type. Reason being is I don't think Salamander is the salamander kinfolk that we see, but rather the terrifying creature inside of it. I think the body has been taken over by this parasite, and it's simply using the body as a shell. With that said, I think it'll be a tanky dark type with high resistances, slow speed, and access to high damage. I'm going to predict that Salamander won't be too strong initially, and put it in the C tier. Kodoki, Gaia type, so it'll rely on its minions for support. We have footage of Kodoki using a move called Stunner Flies, which seems to dish out mild damage while also locking the opponent in place a few times. While the opponent is preoccupied, Kodoki can use projectile attacks from afar. This has a lot of potential for being a powerful strategy, but I think the devs will be careful here with making this kind of gameplay too powerful. For actual stats, Kodoki will likely have low to average health and below average speed, though we do see it'll have access to a quick agility move. It's hard to predict how the meta around minion gameplay will unfold, but I do think players will discover counters for Gaia types. I initially placed Kodoki in the C tier, but upon collecting my thoughts, I think it has a lot of potential. B tier. Mekkin. There's a kinfolk currently being developed on the progress board named Iron Fist. I think that might be Mekkin. Another possibility is Iron Fist is a water type, with the design focus on martial arts. It would make sense as a water type is needed for the alpha, provided that Salamander is in fact the dark type. For Mekkin's stats, I think it's going to have a very high health and defense. Looking at its typing and its design, Mekkin is going to be a beefy tank. It'll take a lot to take it down. Similar to the Mountain from Game of Thrones, or Ganondorf from Super Smash, you'll have to beat it with speed and patience. One wrong move though, and you're toast. B tier. Gladius. In the same vein, I think Gladius will be between Mekkin and Mekkid when it comes to stats. It'll probably have the highest speed of the trio, with strong defense and health. With great survivability and decent movement, I think it'll be one of the stronger kinfolk here. A tier. Nezin. Not much to go off of for Nezin, other than it being a null type and being based on a cat. So with that in mind, it'll probably be similar to Slifer in stats, but have a different moveset. Nezin was designed by community member Mayu, who also provided some good examples for combos and spells. There's no guarantee that developers will use these, but it does provide a glimpse of what's possible. Lots of potential here. I'll place Nezin in the B tier. Deer Dog. Either a fire or a dark type. He may have traits from both types. Mixing the run and gun playstyle of fire with the debuffs of dark could be pretty powerful. A tier. Bakunawa, water type kinfolk. The playstyle for water types is going to revolve around dealing as much damage as possible in quick succession. They'll be combo based, so they could potentially get a damage multiplier after each successful attack. Water types have the right foundation to be top tier kinfolk. However, with being one of the largest kinfolk in the game, Bakunawa's hitbox is massive. Even if he has high speed, it'll be very difficult for opponents to miss their attacks. I think Bakunawa will be between B and C tier, but I'll give the edge to B tier for now. Castrix and Avion. Here we go, air types. Air types are pure glass cannons. They have incredibly high damage potential, but are super fragile with low health and defense. Their strategy will be to rush the opponent down as quickly as possible. Therefore, they won't just have high attack, but most likely high speed as well. I think air-type kinfolk will end up becoming the strongest in the game if used correctly. That's the key here. They will be hard to master, but have an incredibly high skill ceiling. For Castrix, with it likely having a dark lean, it'll be a force of nature with its unique and powerful moveset. S tier. For Avion, if it leans towards null type, it may have higher base health and defense. Either way, Avion gets the S tier as well. I can't wait to see our types unfold. And that concludes my pre-alpha speculation tier list. I really want to make this because I thought it would be fun to look back at from the near and distant future. I'm sure many of my predictions will be wrong, but hopefully I get a few of them right. As you can probably tell, I'm pretty passionate about the competitive aspect of Kindred Fates, and I want to do everything I can to help grow the scene. I've created a Kindred Fates competitive subreddit, as well as a Discord server for players who share the same interest. The plan is to host tournaments, theorycraft, and for the most part, be all aboard for the hype train. If you'd like to join, feel free to click the link below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.